Hello and welcome to Significant Voices. I'm Wanda Miller and I will be your host today. We're going to hear a daughter talk about the loss of her mom to violent crime. Katoria Lawson will share her story and the devastation that most never see or try to live through. Tina Jones's life was taken by someone she trusted and loved. His actions forever changed Tina's children. Those she left behind now fights for justice for the woman that was their world. Katoria did not let this man take her future. She has since taken the pain he inflicted upon her and challenged it to be a portal of good for others. Katoria is an advocate for crime victims. I watch her most days and wonder how the stories of others affect her. She appears strong and in control and ready to lighten the load for someone else. She seeks answers. She stands up for those who can't. I know the stories affect her, but I think she finds purpose and meaning out of the darkest times. Katoria's story is also a testament of the role of victim advocates in the criminal justice system. She will share with you the impact that the Victim Assistance Unit of the Alabama Attorney General's Office has had on her life. They help to enable her healing and possibly even her future. Without a doubt, her journey and the path of many others have been easier because of them, and we thank them for that mission. Katoria's mom would be proud of her, and I'm proud of her too. So please join me in welcoming Katoria Lawson.
My name is Katoria Lawson. I am 32 years old. I am a mother. I'm a sister. I have three brothers that were by my mom. I'm originally from Atmore, Alabama, but I've been to different places living, and I'm back in Alabama now as of last year. Some of the things that happened with my family, starting with my mom when she was younger, she did lose her mother to violence, where her brother's close friend actually killed her mom. And that happened when my mother was about 15 years old. And from there, my mom, she graduated high school and ended up having all four of us. She was a single mom throughout that whole process, had her up and downs with relationships. She had some that were good and some that were bad. I've witnessed domestic violence with her and some of the people that she dated. I've been eyewitnesses to it, even as a person that was in elementary school. So the most recent thing that happened was that my mom's ex-boyfriend pretty much was harassing us for about a week and maybe more but a week that I know of. And he ended up killing her out of jealousy and out of, I guess, what he thinks was heartbreak, but I don't know. He took a very important piece of our family away, and that just changed our lives
Now, how old were
forever.
you when that happened?
I had just turned 18 that November, and I was in the 12th
Okay.
grade.
And you knew this man because he had dated your mom. And so was he like a part of your life? Was it somebody that you cared about? I mean, that had been there for you when you needed him? How long did they date too?
So, I must say they dated from when I was in the 11th grade up until that situation happened. So it was January of 2011, so I was almost about to graduate. So from the
Okay.
11th grade up until the end of my 12th grade year. And he was very important to me at one point before he started doing the things he was doing to my mom. He's the one that taught me how to drive. He attempted to teach me how to swim. He was always around. He was funny. He was a nice, not nice person. Well, he was a nice person to be around back then, before we actually seen his true side. So we became very close. All of us played cards together, like card games, board games, all the time together. I definitely did not see that side coming out of him until later.
So it was not something that you were afraid that was going to happen. Like you didn't expect something to happen, him to do something to your mom. Would it be fair to say you just didn't think that he would ever do that?
I wouldn't. I must say Not right off the bat, but he started showing signs way before he actually did that to my mom. He was doing crazy things even before. But in that moment where everything was good, I didn't expect that to be his behavior.
Yeah. Because a lot of times in domestic violence situations, stuff's happening and it's accelerating, it's getting worse and worse and worse, and then builds up to something like what happened to your mom. And sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. It just depends on the person who's being harmed, whether or not they share it, or whether it's so evident that you just, you see bruises or you see something to make you think that someone was in a domestic violence situation.
Right. And for us, I never actually seen real bruises or anything. I've actually seen like the situations happen or seen the aftermath of it. We had one situation where he thought a guy was in the car with my mom or something, and he ended up ramming his car that she bought him, ramming his car into her brand new truck that she bought while she was in it and driving with my cousins in the car, and ended up knocking the one of the doors off of the car. That's how hard he hit the car. So it was things like that that he was doing. He had hit her one time when we were at a, I don't know if it was my little brother's birthday party or like just a cookout at the house. And I believe the kids that were there, like my little brother and his son actually was there too. They either witnessed it or came right after because they tried to fight him, and they were really little kids. So they tried to defend my mom. Even his son tried to defend my mom. He was very upset that his dad did that.
What happened on that day? How did that day was did that day just start out like any other kind of day, and without you expecting something like that happen? I know you were there.
Well, it wasn't just a day, it was a few days before. He had already been put out of the house, and they weren't together for a few months, maybe 2, but he had been harassing her, stating that he heard she was talking to somebody else that was out of state, calling her all kinds of names. He broke into the house at one point when she wasn't there because my mom actually went to go stay with my a family member because she was so afraid to stay in her own house. And my uncle and my auntie was living with us at the time. And they said when they woke up, he was in my brother's bedroom. He was smoking like cigarettes or whatever. And like he wasn't supposed to be in there. He wasn't supposed to have a kid. We don't know how he got in there, but and then there was a situation where they got into a verbal argument, and I think my cousin took her to the police station. He followed them to the police station. They were arguing outside of the police station, and he got instructions to stay away from her. And I think the police spoke to my mom about different things that she could possibly do. Well, after that, I think my mom actually picked me up from school. No, it wasn't school time. I'm not exactly sure where she got me from, but either way, we went to go get new phones because he kept like blowing our phones up. Well, before we went to get the new phones, he was threatening us. He even said some sexual things to me. He was calling my mom out of her name. He kidnapped our dog, not kidnapped, but he took our dog and let it loose. I don't know if he killed the dog, but he did say that the dog was dead on a certain street. Um, and it seemed like all of this actually played a part in what he did later that night. But we ended up
Yeah.
getting new phones so that he couldn't contact us. And then this was New Year's night going into the second. My mom, I believe she was out and about, maybe at a family member's house, and I was at my cousin's house. Actually, we were both at my cousin's house. We were at my cousin's house, and she stated she was ready to go. Well, I told her I wasn't ready to go as of yet, but I was going to meet her at home. We had planned to watch some movies once we all got home. So we got some movies out of the red box, the old red box thing they used to have. And me and my friend, once we actually got home, my mom had already fallen asleep. And I went in there and I spoke to my mom. And then I just let her know it's fine that she fell asleep. We'll just, we'll go watch one of the movies and we can watch the other ones tomorrow. And me and my friend, we went and watched the movie. I fell asleep. And later, my friend fell asleep. Next thing I know is that he was pretty much, I had a sliding door in my room. And so all I heard was like the door sliding and slamming. And I instantly woke up and he was just yelling for my car keys. He was asking me like, where are the keys? And he started cussing like, where's the effing keys? Like, where's the keys? Where's the keys? I'm like, "Why are you in here? You're not supposed to be here. Like, what are you doing?" And he just kept yelling, and he snatched our phones and my, friend's dog chains because she was in the military, snatched all of our stuff off the bed, but the keys were hanging on the wall, but he didn't get those. He ended up running out of the house, and this whole commotion, my aunt and uncle didn't even hear, and they were across the hall from me. So I ended up running to their door, calling the telling them that he was in the house, and they ended up getting up. So we all ran to the phone, which was closest to us. We went to the phone. Um, I called the police and let them know that he was in the house. And I'm sorry I want to back up, but when he sent me those sexual messages, my mom took me to the police station, and they said that I would have to be the one to press charges or to put some type of order on him because I was 18 at the time, even though I had just turned 18, but I was going to have to be the one to do it. Well, both me and my mom were afraid to have him arrested or anything like that because he had threatened her before, saying that he had people watching her when he was in jail for a previous thing he did to her. So we were afraid to
Yeah.
even to do anything involving that. Well, they told my mom that he's not supposed to come back there, but if he does, they wanted her to keep the lights either on or off. The front porch light, I believe, is on. And if he comes in the house, to run to the light and turn it off. That way they know something was wrong. Well,
Yeah.
going back to the story, once we called the police, they ended up sending somebody, but it took them a little while. But we ended up going towards the front of the house because I was like, "Where's my mom? Like all of this going on. Where is she? Like she don't hear any of this going on." And then my friend was like,
Yeah.
"Do y'all smell that? It smells like fire. It smells like gasoline or something." And I was like, "I'm not worried about that." I'm like, "Where's my mom?" And so we all walked to the front of the house, and she was there laying. She was pretty much gone, and I just freaked out, and I was shaking her, trying to wake her up, and I couldn't get her woke, and my friend just grabbed me and pulled me outside, and that's when the police came in. They went inside the house. One of them came out and I was like, "We don't see anybody in there," which made me even more upset, and I'm just screaming like, "She's in there," like, and then they came back out and they apologized that they did see her. Because the house was really long, I don't know if they went all the way in or whatever. And then after that, he ended up turning himself in. He called the police that same exact night, maybe minutes or 1 hour later, and said, "I'm who you guys are looking for." And I think he said he killed the woman he loved or something like that. So we just went from there.
So has your case gone to trial yet? Has he been convicted?
Yes, he was sentenced to the death penalty. So right now we are going through the appeal process.
I think that we had talked about that you are at the point where he's appealed his death penalty conviction, and the Alabama Attorney General's office is helping your family with that. So this is
Yes, ma'am.
how long has this been part of your life?
This happened in 2011, so 14 years.
Yeah. And you've pretty much had to deal with it constantly since the time it happened. Even till now, you're still waiting on those appeals to be finished.
Yes, we've had to deal with multiple things
That's
since that happened. He at one point before the trial happened, he escaped jail. He was always in the news articles. It was always something about him. It seemed like it was every year. It was always something about him or something related to him being on death row, just always in the newspaper or always on Facebook. And me, I'm also the same person that I'm Googling stuff, trying to learn stuff my own. So I would Google something, I'll see something new that he's come up with to help him get off death row, or some people that's working with him to help him get off death row. And that's just constant.
so, I mean, what you've told me about your mom in our conversations at work, you've talked about like she was the glue in your family. You've got brothers or you got, siblings that she was the one that held all of y'all together. You know, you were young, 18 years old, and something like this happened. What is what he decided to do to your family, to your mom? What has that done to your family?
It's caused a lot of pain and trauma. I think I'll just start it with my oldest brother. He's been dealing he's dealt with a lot of things since that happened because he is the oldest sibling. He was the one that was already an adult at
Yeah.
the time, and he was living across the state. I mean, not the state, the country. He was in Colorado at the time that this had happened. So when we called him, he had to travel from Colorado here. in the midst of being in so much pain of losing his mom and not really understanding why. He had already had a baby, which my mom never actually got to meet because they lived in Colorado. The death of my mom actually caused a lot of different things because my one of my youngest brothers had to go live with my oldest brother and his new family. Like they just started their family, so we pretty much was forced upon him. So he's raising another kid, and I was there too at one point, but I was in college, so I think that took a toll on his first
Yeah.
marriage because that changed the whole dynamic of what they had going on. So he had to move from Colorado down to Florida to be closer to us. And then with me, it stopped me from doing a lot of things. Me and my mom planned on me going to Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. And after she got killed, maybe a month or two later, I got my acceptance letter, and I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to go. I gave up, and I gave up a lot of times. I really couldn't stay focused on school. Even though I graduated from UAB afterwards trying to get my master's, I've attempted many times, but once I get distracted or something bad happens within my life, I get so discouraged. And then with my younger brothers, their behaviors just went wild afterwards. They didn't know how to trust people. They didn't know how to talk to people, and they didn't know how to release their anger positively. So they ended up in a lot of different trouble in different ways, but they are getting better as the years go on.
I think that a lot of people that haven't dealt with something like your family's dealt with, having to deal with this kind of violence and losing someone that meant so much to y'all, that's the part, that people don't see. They don't see the backside of the story. Like, you hear about a crime and you hear about how it happened and maybe the person that it happened to, a limited amount of information, but you don't really hear about what a family has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like, y'all were all trying to help each other and hold each other up and figure out where you're going to live, and you know your plans change for school, and your brother's changed for his marriage, and so everybody's just kind of thrown up in the air, and it was all because of the decision that one man made that decision to really change the course of every one of your lives. And you and I've talked about, you going to school and, having to, taking out school loans and, struggling to get through, finish with school so that, because you were pretty much put in a situation where you truly had to take care of yourself, take care of your future. And so that was, I talk about why we decided to do the podcast is, and that's really it, because I think people need to hear that side of the story. They need to hear what happens to people afterwards, and it doesn't just end after someone's convicted. You went through a trial which had to be very difficult, reliving that, and then he was convicted, and then, the second phase of this started because he was convicted of capital murder, and that is a whole different thing that you have to deal with, and it lasts a long time and will last a whole lot longer before his sentence is ultimately handed down to him and he's put to death, you know, and that's just something that you'll continue to deal with, as you get older. But there's a lot of people that, and we're lucky here at Vocal to have advocates that everybody brings something to the table. And but I always think, I know personally that sometimes it's difficult, when you're carrying your own story and dealing with, the things that are happening in your own case, and you're still trying to help other people every day. But then on the other hand of that, I think it gives us a unique perspective. And I mean, I see you interact in different places where you're helping victims, and see that gives you the ability to really know what somebody's going through, not just, I think I know what you're going through and I'm sorry you're going through it, but I don't know how to help you because I've never been there, kind of thing. So you think that helps you? And I know some days it's hard, but I know it's difficult that, sometimes you're dealing with cases where it really hits home. It's got to hit home with you. And so just if you can share a little bit about that, like how does that help you? And was what happened to your mom and what you were dealing with part of why you wanted to go into the advocacy and helping crime victims?
Yes. This is definitely, I mean, that situation is definitely how I even got introduced to being a victims advocate. Because of the trial that we went through, we had our own victims advocate that came from the AG's office, and they were with us throughout the whole trial. So that's how I was introduced to the position, or to the job title, because I didn't even really know that existed. But I didn't go straight into it. I actually did a few things working with kids first and in different ways, whether it was a group home or teaching, but I still was advocating in some sort of fashion. And then I eventually went to casework or social work, where I was working with foster care kids. And these kids are also going through certain things like I went through, or
Mhm.
the different
Yeah.
things that they go through. And then once I moved back to Alabama trying to find a job, and I thought about it, about the job title of a victims advocate, and I reached out to the AG's office to see if they were hiring, and they weren't, but they definitely told me about Vocal and passed the message along, and that's how I got it started here. I do believe that the things that I went through helped me help other people, because, like you said, I can relate. I know their pain, maybe not their exact pain with some of the situations, but I can definitely identify with them. And I think that's very beneficial, because I don't want to just sit there in their face watching them teary eyed and can't have sympathy or empathy for them. And then there are some cases that I've actually been in the hearings that are exactly like my mom's case. And I've gotten teary eyed, but I try to keep it together for the sake of me being the person that they're supposed to cry on and not the other way around. But I do think that my situation has definitely helped me become a great victims advocate.
And I think your situation too, when we first started talking and and I got that call from the Attorney General's office, the Victim Assistance Unit, saying that they had the perfect person that we needed here at Vocal as an advocate. Tell me a little bit about your story and how you had handled the whole situation, and that you wanted to get into advocacy work for crime victims. And so, but also when we talked, you told the other side of the story with them about how important it was to have an advocate, and how important that group of people from the Attorney General's office, and they have an outstanding program in Alabama, victim advocates that truly, truly do care about what they're doing and put their heart into it. But I think your story really is a good example of how important that can be to somebody, to know that you're not going through that situation by yourself, and that they are so good to explain things to you and be there with you and go through those hearings with you, and just not let you travel that road by yourself, which is, our mission, that we don't want people to think they have to do that. So do you think that they had played a big part in you getting through that, and coming out the other side of at least the process that you've been through so far, with a whole lot better understanding and in a whole lot better shape than you would have been had you not had them there with you?
Yes, because like I said, I was only 18 when it happened, and I might have been 20 or 21 when I went to trial. And I didn't know anything about the criminal justice system. I didn't know the terms, I didn't know the lingo, I didn't know what was going on. But they had the victims advocate there for that particular reasoning. And also, I feel like they also helped me protect my innocence, because they didn't allow me, not just them, but my brother as well, but mostly them, they didn't allow me to stay in the courtroom when they had to show those graphic pictures of my mom and autopsies and crime scene photos. They didn't allow me to stay in the courtroom at that time, and I appreciate them now. Back then, I was mad, but I appreciate them now for
Yeah.
doing that for me, because my mind probably wouldn't have been right after that, and I probably wouldn't have gotten as far as I am now. And I think that they were a big part of how my family reacted as well when we were in the courtroom, because they talked about, certain things we could and couldn't do, because I'm telling you now, my family, they probably said so many curse words in their head, but I believe that because we had that person there by our sides, to hold our hand before we came out and yelled anything out, they were truly there, and then not really helping us with our victim statements, but helping us understand what it is supposed to look like, as well.
Now, when you may be sitting in a courtroom with someone and you tell them, we're at the point in a trial where the DA's just said they're going to have to show the pictures and the coroner's going to speak. And this is really a tough time. And your natural instinct is to stay because you want to be there for the whole thing. But I think when you're in a situation where you've been through that and somebody did push you out the door and say, you're going to thank me for this at some point, and I know you're mad right now, but you're going to thank me later. You can say to them, look, I've been there and I know now that I'm better off not having sat through that. And I didn't need to see that kind of stuff. It's not necessary. And I think that's what all of us as advocates, if we have our own story, we've been through those steps and we can actually tell people, hey, I know how you feel. I know what you want to do, but trust me. I mean, I've been there and it's better. And I really think that really just that adds so much to what you can offer to people. And you had a great group of people that really showed you so much and taught you so much, I'm sure, that you're utilizing now because you're helping people every day. But I think that it just makes such a difference when you've got that kind of, you've got that experience and that history and you can share it. And I think you hear what people say a little bit differently than other people. You can pick up on things that people are saying or their moods or, because not every day is good for you. It's not. It can't be. There's got to be days that are tougher than others, and that. That's you're going to have those days. And so when somebody calls and they're really just struggling, that, that struggle. So that I think that just adds a lot to what you can offer to people. And I did want to ask you too, and you have a precious little girl and she's our office child. She's she's just a beautiful little girl. I would think that what happened to your mom probably has affected you and how you date or the people you get involved with or whether or not you can trust somebody. But I would also think that what happened to your mom and what you've experienced has got some effect on what you want for her and what you teach her and what you share with her. And probably, I mean, I would say I'm not a mother, but I would say that I'd be afraid to let her out of the house. Again, these are things that people don't see or don't think about. But I would, and I'm guessing. And if I'm wrong, tell me. But I would think that would have a lot of effect on your relationship with your daughter and how you want to help her as she moves forward and grows up.
Right. I'm definitely overprotective of her. When it comes to dating, I think dating is very terrifying. I actually don't ever bring anybody around my daughter. I don't, even if I'm on the phone with somebody, I try to not let her talk to them or anything like that, because I just want to protect her. I don't want her exposed to different situations that may harm her later, whether it's innocent harm, or as actual, um, what am I trying to say? Actual physical harm. I don't want any of that to be put on her, like it was on me. My mom, when she did date people, I was around these people and I got attached to these people, and some of these people hurt my mom. And I had to witness that, and I don't want my child seeing me physically or mentally or emotionally hurt by anybody. And I don't want her to think it's okay to have to go through those things as well. These days, people don't have the true intentions, and some of them, their agenda is to hurt your child or prey on you to get to your child, and it's different things. So I just try to protect her as much as I can.
Well, and that's you're saying you do try to protect her because, I mean, the things that we see every day, not only our own experiences, but the things that we talk about every day at work. We talk about cases and we talk about how things happened. Somebody may have information or have been around when a case happened, and so we talk about things that most people don't even think about, would never even consider. And I think that does change you. That makes you, especially if you have a child that you want to protect. But even in our own life, it takes a lot of your trust away. We know what people are capable of doing. And I think that does change you. And it changes the way you look at things, the way you see life, you know, the way you date or the way you go to the grocery store, or just really the way the decisions that you make every day that most people may make without even thinking about it because they don't have any bad thing to base those decisions on. And if you do, it changes you. And you really can't go back. You can't go back to who you were before you started watching that movie that night. And you think just minutes changed your entire life and, just a normal night. And so now you have a new normal and it's something that you got to grow into and get used to and live with for the rest of your life.
Yeah, the new normal isn't fun because my mom definitely is not here for any of it. So I don't know, graduations, weddings, baby deliveries, like she missed everything, and it sucks really bad. But I can't do anything but try to move forward and try to do what's best for my daughter and me.
Well, I think it probably goes without saying that she would be very proud of you, the work you're doing and what you're trying to do to help people and, the what you bring to the table. I mean, especially and we see a lot of domestic violence, homicide cases. We do a lot of work at the parole board level where, people have committed these horrible crimes and, the families are coming to the parole board and, facing that person walking free and their loved one's never going to come back, get that second chance, get that opportunity to start their life over. And I think a lot of times that's really difficult for all of us to hear. If you've lost somebody to a murder, um, and you think, wow, my family or all of these families that we're there helping would all like to have that second chance. And I think it's a hard concept for people to understand unless they've been there. And when you hear those stories at the parole board, especially at the parole board, because it's a good bit of time between the time the crime happened and then, it could be decades later. And I know I see it and you see it that pain is still as raw and as real on that day standing in front of that parole board as it was the day it happened. So proof
Mhm.
positive that, your life does go on, certainly. But that pain that someone else inflicted on you never goes away, never goes away. And missing your mom will never go away. I mean, anyone who's lost a parent in any way knows that that's such a huge loss in your life. But when somebody takes that person from you, that's a whole different, homicide, I think, and you tell me if you agree, homicide to me is different from any other way of dying. It's not like a car wreck. It's not like having a disease. It's not like falling down a flight of stairs. It's not like a lot of, it's not like drowning. It's not like all the what different ways that you can think of dying. But homicide is different because it involves another person. It involves the actions of another person, and that to me really changes that whole dynamic and the way I yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you say that actually because my mom, she actually was very sick or whatever. She had a pacemaker. So honestly, growing up, I always thought my mom would pass away from that. and I wasn't expecting it to happen so soon anyway, but the fact that somebody else's choices took her away definitely got to me as well, because she was a little sick before a week or so before this happened anyway. And then the way that he shot her, from what I was hearing, like, it was just over the top. And I mean, it's like, I think they said that she had a little activity in her heart, but it turns out it was the pacemaker. They thought that maybe she would still had a chance, but it was just like the pacemaker that was had the activity in there. So it was like, you didn't have to, first of all, you didn't have to do it at all, but you didn't have to do it the way you did it either, because she was gonna probably pass away anyway. You shot her multiple times in a very executional style, so it was just over the top.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just hard to forgive. It's hard to, and forgiveness is a very personal thing. Everybody does it differently, just like everybody grieves differently. Everybody, moves forward or not differently. So, it's just one of those things. Every case is different, but having that other person involved, that just like you said, your mom may have lived a very long life. She may have, you know, there may have been something that came along that would have helped her medically, that improved her chances of living to be 100, so you don't know that. But he took that opportunity away from you to even know it. So that to me is really unforgivable. It really is. I mean, when you take somebody's life, there is no opportunity to heal or move past it like other victims can, if they, where they can pick up their life and move on, because that's it. It's the ultimate, it's the end. And so there's a lot that goes into those kind of cases, and being in the system and working through all of the trials and the sentencing and the appeals and all of the different ways that someone tries to really remove themselves from being punished, remove themselves from paying any kind of price for what they did. And that's what we deal with every day with people. So again, part of the story that people don't really hear. And I appreciate you and you taking the time and telling your story. And we're going to wrap up, but I'm just going to give you the opportunity. Is there anything that you want to share with people? Or you've got such a positive, uplifting spirit, and you offer so much to people. And I know people look at you and as an example of how they can overcome things. So if there's anything you'd like to say to wrap it up, we'll finish up and we'll get this put up so people can hear your story.
Okay, I think I just want to end it by saying that my mom was truly my best friend. It was somebody that I literally would skip school just to, well, not skip school, but somebody that I would call to come and get me from school and fake like I was sick I would call her and act like I was sick just so I could spend the day with her. Somebody I slept in the bed with up until maybe the night before that happened. Somebody that, I mean, she just meant the world to me, and everybody always said it. Like, I knew not to play with her, but I also, like, she was my best friend, like, truly. And I think she was the cool mom. That's what everybody called her. They loved her. All my friends called her mom. And I think that the best way to get through it is to know in the end you will get through it. It takes time, and it's okay not to be okay. If you want to scream, cry, you're allowed to do so. And I don't want anybody to feel as if though they have to hold that down. Especially in the male community, they feel as if though they can't express their emotions, and I really hate that. But I just want everybody to know that it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. And eventually, it may be 10, 20, 30 years from now, but if you keep pushing, you'll get through it. It's going to still be a rocky road, but it'll be eventually be okay.
Those are good words to leave on. As I said, I know your mom would be proud, and she was beautiful and left a beautiful daughter, but I know that she would be proud of what you're doing. And you're really keeping her story and her legacy alive by now doing something so positive with your life to help other people. And she's got to be smiling down on what you're doing. I thank you, and so glad that you're here with us and you're in my life. And we'll wrap it up.
Thank you.
We thank you for visiting the Significant Voices podcast. Please like, subscribe, follow, and join our channel. You can also visit the Victims of Crime and Leniency webpage and social media to learn more about our mission of advocacy for crime victims that started in 1982. Your support is greatly appreciated and important to us. Visit vocalonline.org for more information. To contact us, please call 334-262-7197 or email us at voices@vocalonline.org. Thanks again, and we hope to see you again soon.